Hello, children. Hello, Dr. Duncan. How are we doing? We are doing fine. I'm always glad to hear that, but you probably know that already. I'm always glad that everybody's doing fine. Today I wanted to talk with you about voice. We've all got one. I use mine all the time, but we don't always use it the same way. In your music class, we'll talk about the different kinds of voices that we have. Different kinds of voices, Dr. Duncan. I've only got one voice. Well, yes and no. Sometimes I talk, but nobody hears me. And I don't mean I'm talking and nobody's listening. I mean I'm talking inside. You probably couldn't hear anything I said, could you? Well, that's my inner voice. Sometimes my inner voice and I just talk. Sometimes I sing. I hear music in my head without ever saying anything. And a lot of times when I'm learning a new piece of music and I'm listening to it, I listen to it in my head while I'm listening to it with the other musicians. That can be pretty cool. We've got a really fancy word for that. You don't need to remember this, but we call it audiation. That is, hearing inside our head. I've got a speaking voice. I'm using my speaking voice right now. I'm talking with you with my speaking voice. I've got a whispering voice. And that's a really quiet voice, and I use that when I don't want anybody else to hear what's going on. I've got a shouting voice, a calling voice. If I want to get somebody's attention. Hey, Mr. Farrell, down over there on the 25-yard line. And I raise my voice and I project my voice so that he can hear me way out on the marching field. I can be heard a long way on the marching field. I used to be a band director and I used to have to be heard at 100 yards. So I can be loud when I have to. And I have a singing voice. Hello, children. Hello, Dr. Duncan. How are you doing? We are doing fine. And you've heard my singing voice a lot of different times. Sometimes people ask me, how do you get children to do the right thing? How do you get them to use the right voice? Well, there's a time when you want a shouting voice. This is my shouting voice. Hey there, can you come over here? This is my speaking voice. It's the voice I use most of the time. It's a pretty normal voice. Some people will call that your inside voice. It's the voice you use in your house. And I have a whispering voice, which is quiet, so that I don't disturb other people. And I have an inner voice, which you can't even hear. And of course, I have my singing voice, which you've heard a number of times. So, this is my calling voice. This is my speaking voice. This is my whispering voice. This is my singing voice. And my inner voice, you cannot even hear. Well, I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that you understand that there's times when you should shout. There's times when you should call out and get the attention of somebody. There's times when we should talk normally, like we are in a room filled with other people. There's times we should be very quiet, like being in the library or studying or working where other people might be disturbed by our voice. There's times to just listen to things in our head. And for those of us who teach music, there's always time for singing. We can sing together. We can sing alone. Hope you're having a great day. Go have some